Hi and welcome back. This week I thought I'd do a review on the SWM Gran Milano. It's a 450cc single motorcycle and it's fairly new. It's been out for probably about 6 months, or at least it has been in Australia. And I had a chance to go for a short test ride a couple of months back and I was really impressed. So I thought I'd do a bit of a review after, say, a 30 or 40 kilometre ride, and this is it. Now, my first impressions are that the handling is really good. It's a lightweight motorcycle that weighs about 145 kilos dry, a little bit more with oil and fuel in it, and it's quite nimble. The steering, though, is a bit old school in that it is a bit slow in the steering compared to some bikes, so it's sort of a little bit retro in that respect. But once you get used to it, it is actually really easy to fling it around in the corners, particularly given its lightweight. Now, the suspension that comes with the bike, it uses a Fast Ace upside down forks on the front of quite large diameter. I think they're 49 millimeter from memory, and they've got compression and rebound damping on them. I don't know about spring rate though. It doesn't appear to be adjustable, and I haven't got a manual, so I can't really give you any details on that. Now, the rear shocks, they're a remote reservoir shock, and they have spring preload and rebound damping, it looks like. Again, without the manual, it's rather hard to tell. Now, the suspension was really good in the factory settings. They've got good damping front and back, and combined with the comfortable seat, I found the bike really good on our B-grade roads. I mean, our roads are really quite bumpy here in Australia, and this bike was a real pleasure to ride. It wasn't harsh at all, it wasn't underdamped or undersprung. It just really stuck like glue with the factory settings. I'm sure with a little bit of tweaking you could acclimatise it to your riding style and get it even better. Now, braking is handled by a 4-piston Brembo at the front on a fairly large diameter disc. The rear has a single piston caliper with a much smaller disc, and I found the braking really good. The front brake was light, very powerful. The rear brake was very complementary to that as a stabilising force when you wanted to brake into corners, and there was no hint of the rear locking up on me. Now, I believe the engine is manufactured in China, but the frame number indicates that the chassis is manufactured in Italy, and it certainly, this motorcycle is assembled in Italy. So all in all, you'd have to call this an Italian motorcycle with some foreign components in it. Now, the performance of this motorcycle is quite outstanding. It's listed as 30 horsepower on the Australian website, but it sort of appears to have a lot more than that. Maybe that's due to its light weight of 145 kilos, but it's very spirited. It revs easily, and the motor, once it gets to 4,000 RPM, will rev quite cleanly to 9,000 RPM. The red line is at 10,000 RPM, but it seems to be very comfortable between 5 and 8,000 RPM with plenty of overtaking power. It's, I suppose, speed-wise, for sporting riding, you'd be looking at between 80 kilometres an hour and 120 kilometres an hour are really the sweet spot for this bike. Takeoffs aren't that quick. First gear is a little bit low, but once you get into second and beyond, the bike is truly a delight. Some reviewers have mentioned vibration, and I didn't really find it a problem. Yes, there is a tingle at higher RPM, but it's nowhere near as bad as other singles I've ridden, particularly older singles. The fueling on the engine is taken care of with an EFI system, and that worked remarkably well. There was a little bit of cold-bloodedness when the bike was cold. The EFI sort of fluffed a little bit at the lower RPMs until the engine warmed up. So the EFI did certainly seem to be up to the task and quite good. Now, the finish is, well, I won't say it's exceptional, but it certainly is very good for the price point. In Australia, the Gran Milano is selling for around $8,000 Australian on the road, which is a real bargain. Its only real competitor in the single cylinder category here would be the Royal Enfield Continental, GT Continental, which I hope to get a test ride on sometime in the near future so I can compare the two. Now the finish, it comes in 3 different colour schemes. There's this dark green, there's a bronze and there's a black. Personally I think the green looks the best, but there's certainly a lot of good features about this motorcycle. The tank, the rear ducktail, the side covers, and even the front and rear guards are all steel. They're not plastic. The exhaust system, it has twin exhausts. It's obviously a 4-valve head, so it has 1 exhaust off each port. They're a stainless steel system, which is a real sign of quality in my books. The instruments perhaps look a little inexpensive, but they worked really well. I've certainly got no complaints there. And as I said, the brakes are Brembo on the front there. You know, they're just superb. Mirrors are good, nothing special there. The switchgear just looks like your typical Italian/Japanese switchgear of today. It does run wire wheels with they're 17-inch at both ends, and it runs radial tyres, which in this sort of price point and retro sort of bike is unusual. The Royal Enfield runs more traditional cross-ply tyres as opposed to radial ply tyres. Now the tyres on this don't look particularly good. They've got a very strange blocky pattern on them, but in the dry they certainly stick like glue, and I've got no real complaint about them. I'd certainly upgrade them to something a little bit more significant quality-wise and grip-wise once they're worn out, but as they stand, they're really good. So my conclusion is, if you're looking for a 500 single and you want something that's a little bit retro looking and cafe racer-ish, I would certainly recommend you take one of these for a test ride, and don't just take it for a short ride either. You want to do at least 20 to 30 kilometres to get used to the gear change and the performance and everything else before you make a decision. It's certainly a well-made product, and I was impressed. I'll see you next time. Oh, and I almost forgot. I'd like to thank John Buskus of A1 Motorcycles for loaning me this Gran Milano. You'll find their contact details in the description below.